Hi everybody, Eric McCool here of Permagora.com, and I'm here today with a really special person to interview, and that would be Gerald Celente, the famous Gerald Celente. It's such an honor to be here with you. Thank you for taking time to talk with me.
Thanks for coming, Eric.
Definitely. So, to let people who don't already know you know about what you're about and what you do, please talk a little bit about the Trends Research Institute and Occupy Peace.
Well, the Trends Research Institute I founded in 1980, and before that I began my career running political campaigns in Westchester County in New York. Right out of graduate school, I ran the #2 guy running the campaign for the mayor of Yonkers, a city of about 300,000 people. And then I worked on other campaigns throughout Westchester. And I was so good at it, they sent me up to Albany, and I was the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate. And that was the worst job I ever had in my life, watching grown men grovel to suck their way up to the top. I'd be hanging around the back of the chamber with my buddy, and and a senator would walk in, and my friend would leave me, and they'd follow the senator and pull out the chair and push it back. These chairs would blow on, they'd move, big leather chairs, luxury chairs. The guys would come back, I said, "What's the matter, man? Cat can't sit down by himself. He needs some help." And they said, "No, Gerald, you have an attitude like that, you won't make it here." I said, "That's not the way I grew up." I said, "My mother, may her soul rest in peace, when I was a little boy, before I knew what the word meant, she said, 'I hate cowards.'" So this isn't what I do. But I learned, I got on the inside. I was this, again, I'm a young guy sitting with the governor of New York, the majority leader, my boss, 23 years old. So I saw what went on. And then I designed and instructed American politics and campaign technology, and taught it at St. John's University. And from there I went to Chicago, and I was chief government affairs specialist for a segment of the chemical industry between D.C. and Chicago for nearly 7 years. 28 years old, I was staying at the Willard Hotel and putting my meetings on the Hay Adams. So I hit the top really quick. I have a photo over there of me and Ronald Reagan in 1976, 2 days before he's going to announce he's running for president against Jerry Ford. And we hired him to address our group, and I was the guy in charge of that. So I got to the top right away in those terms. So I saw what it really looked like on the inside. And then the changing moment for me was when Jimmy Carter came back from spending New Year's Eve with the Shah and his wife, and this is when the Iranian revolution's heating up. And people forget, the terrible Iranians. Oh yeah, you know any of the history of Iran? Do you know how the CIA and the MI6 overthrew the democratically elected government of Mossadegh in 1953 and put in this brutal dictator, this low-life boy, the Shah, the Prince of Prince, sitting on the peacock throne in this world and forever. They plunked this guy out of the south of France, installed him in there because Mossadegh, who was a university professor, had the nerve, the gall, the arrogance to take the oil fields away from Standard Oil and Anglo-Iranian oil, better known today as BP. How about FU?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for that, they got rid of this guy. And they slaughtered thousands of intellectuals, artists, everybody protesting. The Shah's regime, the Savak, the secret police, made the SS look good. So when this riot's going on in Iran, and I knew about the history of this thing, and I'm seeing millions of people taking to the streets, I said, this thing's real. This thing's going down. Jimmy Carter comes back from spending New Year's Eve, him in Roswell, with the Shah and his wife. And in those days, it was a big deal when the president went overseas. It was like if George Bush went overseas, first time you ever traveled out of the States, And they have a helicopter, they salute, South salute. These guys dressed up in military drag, who made up this crap? Who made up this crap? You got to salute the president. This guy works for us. And I've been around these guys. You know who they are? You know who the people are that run for office?
Don't.
These are the people you couldn't stand in high school that wanted to be class president and head of the student council.
Suck-ups.
The suck-ups, you got it, man. The brown-nosers, the insincere, the overly ambitious.
Yeah.
All in it for themselves. Anyway, Carter comes out, he goes to the microphones, and he announces that the Shah is the island of stability in the Middle East. And I knew this thing was going down. And at that moment, I became a political atheist. And I started, after the anger. Oh, that's what people say. Oh, don't be angry. You know, screw you, don't get angry. Somebody screws with you, man. You better be angry or be a little boy of nothing.
Yeah.
And as I say, if Jesus Christ could chase the people out with a whip, that's violence, right? I could be angry, so take it easy. So anyway, at that moment, I said to myself, what will be the implications of this? Because I know this thing's going down. So I started betting on oil and gold futures. Now, this is the late 70s. People weren't doing that. I was a young guy. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I put a $5,000 bet on buying gold contracts and oil contracts, oil futures contracts. 10,000 total. I brought it up to almost $750,000.
On 5,000.
Actually, 10,000.
10,000.
5 and 5. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I lost most of it. I didn't know what I was
Later
doing.
you did.
Yeah. But I walked away with about 150,000. And I quit my job. And I began the Trends Research Institute, understanding that current events form future trends. And tracking trends is an understanding of where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. And I also realized that people only look one dimension at what they were doing. So for example, I used to say that opportunity misses those who view the world through the eyes of their profession. You think the whole world evolves around you. So economists look at economic data. How about social, environmental, geopolitical? We look a little broader. So I devised a system called globalnomic. So that's how I began. And my first big forecast that brought me into the national spotlight was in 1987. I predicted the 87 stock market crash in January. I said it would crash by the end of the year. And then I wrote a number of books, international bestsellers, Trend 2000, Trend Tracking, earlier than that. And you don't always get it right. Like, for example, when I started writing Trends 2000 in 1994, I missed the major significance of the internet age. You know, it's just beginning.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't see, I saw it, I saw a lot of it, but I didn't see how, you know, people forget, you know, that back in the early 90s, you know, not a lot of people had computers. You watch something like a video and it would be movements like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the internet, the computer age was totally different back then.
Yeah. And so I kind of missed that one. And of course, we got a lot of them right. But you know, it's life, it's not perfect. And the one, you know, as I mentioned, tracking trends is an understanding of where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. So I would believe the market, I took the domain name out, the Panic of '08 in 2007.
Because you knew that...
I knew that one. I mean, and I've been on Oprah, the Today Show. I used to be on the Today Show every number of times a year, ABC, all of them, CBS, Brian Williams, you know, before he was, you know, in battle over Iraq. I'm making that up. That was his story.
That was the guy that didn't actually go over there. Yeah. I was there.
I was on with O'Reilly. I've been on with all of them.
Okay.
But anyway, I got, after the Panic of '08, I figured, this thing's going to keep going down. But again, tracking trends is an understanding of how you got here, where you are, and where you're going. There was never such thing as zero interest rate policy. When I was a young guy, you know, my parents, all the relatives, may they all rest in peace, they had a thing called savings accounts. and they make a little extra money and they put it in a saving account to get interest on it. Then they retire to Florida.
Yeah, the bank pays you to keep your money there.
Yeah. So you didn't know there was something. Zero interest rate policy. They can't keep this going. Well, they can't. What they raise interest rates? The grand total of what? 2 times, 3 times since the last 10 years.
Yeah, fractionally.
Fractionally, yeah. What? 50 basis points? What is it? 2 or 3 times? I forget. So little. So it doesn't mean anything. You're looking now at mortgage rates back. Poof, down below 4% again. So the other thing I didn't see coming. Can't invent this stuff. Unless you're a criminal banker, you could come up with anything, man. Again, it was Jesus that chased the money changers out of the temple. Guess they haven't changed much, just changed their names.
That's right.
Now they're the Goldman Sachs gang, the Merrill Lynch mob,
Banksters.
The banksters. So anyway, quantitative easing. What do you mean quantitative easing? How about dumping a lot of cheap dough in there so we could consolidate more, the multinationals could become global nationals, make them bigger than multinational, let's make them universal natural, or national, or universal, by giving them cheap money and giving it to them all that they want. So when you look at, I got it wrong. Just take it easy, man. I never knew they were going to do that.
Right. Well, it's kind of like if you're playing chess and you see a near checkmate, and then the guy cheats and brings another player back and says, "Oh, I did this." It's like,
I
can't
can
predict
cheat.
they're going to cheat.
But don't you understand? I'm allowed to cheat. Don't you know who I am?
I'm up in the big chair over here.
Yeah. I make the rules.
Yeah.
What this is, everybody better get this in their head. It's a neo-feudal society.
Absolutely.
There's different sets of rules for the economic elite.
Apartheid. That's what Max Kaiser's always calling it.
It's an economic elite and the political nobility. I could be George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. I have to be proper. I don't want to. Penis Cheney. And, because I don't want to call him Dick Cheney. Because then people say, well, Celente, Penis Cheney and Bush lying us into war. Lying us into war. Slaughtering over 1 million people based on Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al Qaeda. Everybody knew it was a lie that was tuned in. Mark Ritter, so many of us. Remember that other little boy, another arrogant guy,
The vile Colin. Was that?
Colin Powell.
Powell.
You know Colin? Because that's what the crap runs through, man, and right out of his mouth.
These names are too appropriate.
Yeah. Dick and Colin. So, there's different sets of rules.
Right.
Don't have 2 drinks, man. Pull over. Your signal light wasn't on. Where were you? Well, do you have anything to drink? I had 2 glasses of wine. Get out of the car.
I might beat you up and...
Yeah. Stand on one leg, close your eyes, and recite the alphabet backwards. It's a neo-feudal society. Look, that one guy went to jail for all the money, all the rip-offs from the banksters.
Right. All the crimes that were
Felonies.
disclosed. Yeah.
Felonies. Not convicted of felonies. Not accused of, convicted of. And Eric Holder.
That's right.
Yeah. Hold this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember him. Apologist for what they were doing. He had to get up there and explain
Too
it to
big
us.
to jail.
That's right. He said they're just too...
Too big to jail. And Obama, the liar-in-chief, lied his way into office, lied his way out. So what you have is a neo-feudal society. So when we're looking at ripping us off, it's like what airlines have become. Again, I began as a young man flying first class back in the early 70s. It was, poof. Now what do? Now, even then, flying economy class was decent. Now it's steerage. And what do now? The first class are treated like neo-feudal. Because now they're going to really start upgrading it and lowering everything else. So that's what's just turned into a neo-feudal society. These are the facts. The fact is, since Obama got elected, the guy that was going to bring equality and change and hope you can believe in,
Mm-hmm.
5% of the people got 95% of all the wealth created. So what the neo-feudal society did, it brought the cheap money that allowed mergers and acquisition activity and stock buybacks. End of story, man. Because in the United States, where the gap between the rich and the poor is the highest of any of the OECD nations, 50% of the people are earning with full-time jobs under $30,000 or less.
Basically poverty.
Poverty.
Yeah.
So, that's where we are. So it's the whole game is a ripoff.
Yep, I agree. Couldn't agree more. And
now you got Trump in there cleaning the swamp. He filled the swamp with more Goldman Sachs gang and the rest of the people. And he's backtracking just like Obama.
yeah, surprise,
Just
surprise.
like Obama. And you know when he started his biggest backtracks? See, trends forecasters, you think about these things. Friday after, when government puts out information that they don't want to put out but they're obliged to, they usually put it out late Friday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody, everybody in the media, what's left of it, the newspapers particularly, they close down like 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday in D.C. and everybody goes back home. So then they put out the report later in the day, so it appears in Saturday's news, which is the least read and listened to news day of the week. Trump came out with his backtracks on the Import-Export Bank, or the Export-Import Bank, Exim Bank. He backtracked on China. They're not currency manipulators, which they're not, by the way. They spent over $1 trillion propping up the yuan because the capital outflows. But he backtracked on that. He backtracked on a number of issues during the Easter week.
But nobody
was watching it.
Right, smart timing.
Yeah, so they do that purposely.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have basically is a neo-feudal society.
Right. And it's something I've been sort of vaguely aware of my whole life, my recent life, in the last 10 years, I've been actively trying to figure out what to do about it. And so my next question for you is, regarding, to preface that, a lot of people in the alt media, and even people who aren't really all that tuned in, are kind of becoming aware of a potential collapse of the economy, a potential just shutting down of all that we know and hold dear. And a lot of people are afraid of that. They want to know what to do. And so can you outline briefly for us some strategies that ordinary people can take to protect themselves from the racket that these criminals have been running and how it might affect us?
Again, I would have thought that the whole thing would have collapsed back in 2000.
Yeah, me too. I can't believe it's still running.
So they'll make up any game that they want. When all else fails, they take you to war.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like I hear the drums beating already.
Look at this. Again, that's another backtrack with Trump.
Right.
We're not going to get involved in Syria. Assad's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, within minutes. Oh, Assad did the chemical weapons. No, he didn't. It wasn't in his interest to do it. You look back, no, he didn't do it before. There were United Nations investigations. It was the Turks who gave our ISIS's people the chemicals to do it the last time.
Unbelievable. They even tried that again after it was revealed what happened the first time.
But they lie, the propaganda comes out.
Yeah.
So when all else fails, they take it away. 59 missiles. What are we doing? What do they do to us?
Right.
Oh, it's a national security threat. Oh, yes, Syria's going to invade any minute. Yeah.
Right. Coming for our freedoms.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, as the economy weakens, you're going to get more and more war talk. Look at the beating the drums for North Korea.
Yeah.
And we have to watch out for North Korea. I mean, they invaded Afghanistan. Look what they did. They're there for 15 years, right? They're in Iraq. I think they went in Iraq. They're all over. They're in Somalia. Yeah, they're just sending troops now. Since 1994, this is the first time North Korea is sending troops into Somalia. Oh, and look what they did to Libya. Whew, they got rid of that Gaddafi, boy. Those North Koreans, they know what to do. Yeah, how about the Americans? Who cares about the North Koreans? They may get a missile. Yes, so what? Everybody else has them.
Right.
This tiny little poor country. Oh, they're a threat to us.
Better go kill a bunch of people.
Yep. So what I'm saying is, the economy is always, with China, China's debt bubble is gone. David Stockman talks about it. I believe he said it was 500 billion 20 years ago, the total debt. Now it's over 30 trillion.
China's?
Yeah.
That's on par with our debt.
Way beyond. Their GDP, debt to GDP ratio is about 260 along with, that's about what it is with Japan too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's a global collapse that's coming. It didn't.
But again, so what do you do? You know, I don't give financial advice. Gora does that. But for me personally, GC's 3Gs. Gerald Celente's 3Gs. Gold, guns, and a getaway plan.
Okay, I like it. And gold is something that I've advocated for a long time, mainly because they have to face you face to face if they want to steal it from you.
They're not going to.
And that's the thing, but I mean, if your money's in the bank, they can just take it.
Yeah, but even during the, you know, when FDR called it.
Right.
I have over on that wall all the relatives, my grandparents and parents,
Oh, yeah.
souls rest in peace. My father used to tell me this story. He said, your grandfather, my mother's father, had a lot of gold. And FDR called it all in. My grandfather was a real patriot, he loved this country. And so he's packing up all the gold that he had. And my father said, what are you doing? He said, well, the government wants it back. It's not giving it to him. Kidding? I said, what did he do, Dad? He said, he gave it back. But they didn't convict anybody.
If you didn't cooperate.
Maybe one person. And that's why, to me, you don't keep it in a safe deposit box. You put it someplace where nobody's going to get your hands on it. And I tell the story what happened in 9/11. Here we are in Kingston, New York. I used to live in Rhinebeck, right across the river. And I'll never forget when 9/11 happened. And again, whether or not how it happened, I don't get in that discussion. I was watching CNBC. And I'm having a cup of coffee, watching the news, and this guy who passed away, I forgot what his name was. He said, we're going to break away now. He said, there seems a plane that's crashed into the World Trade Center. A private plane. That was the words. I used to do a lot of hot air ballooning, flying private planes for years. I don't fly myself, but I've been in many of them. And I know height and flying conditions pretty well. And it was a beautiful September day. Nothing hits a thing, the World Trade Center by accident.
Yeah, right.
Matter of fact, one of my friends over in Rhinebeck, David Jack Caruso, one time he tried to hang, he jumped out of a private plane and tried to hang glide on top of the World Trade Center.
Land it?
Yeah, he didn't make it. But those are the guys, that's when I moved up here. It was a whole wild move back in those days. But anyway, and then they take us down to the World Trade Center, and the reporter's there. And then all of a sudden, that famous shot of the plane. I pick up the phone, and I called my girlfriend at the time, Marie Pierre, a French woman. She lived nearby me. She's from Paris originally. I said, Marie Pierre, they just hit the World Trade Center. I said, go to the bank and get all your money out. This is GC's 3Gs. This is a fact. This is what I did at that moment while everybody's freaking out. Because you could go back to USA Today. They used to run my top trends each year. And the headline on December 2000, getting ready for 2001, 2001 won't be our year, Trendseer says. And I warned that a wave of anti-Americanism was sweeping the globe, and Americans wouldn't be safe at home or abroad. It's there, anybody could see. So I was prepared for something to happen. So then the next thing I did, I called up Fleet Bank at the time. They were bought out by somebody. I had all my company's money and my money, and again, in those days, they had a thing called interest rates, in CDs. I call up the guy, start giving him my information to wire transfer the money to the Rhinebeck Bank, because I'm going to get the hell out of here. Because I'm a New Yorker, I know New York really well, and if they're whacking the Trade Center, and they're saying the planes are coming down the Hudson River, I know where Indian Point is. as a kid, I used to spend my summer, I watched the thing being built.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, if they whack that thing, you're going to see people behave in a way that you cannot imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm ready to get out of here.
Yeah.
Again, guns, gold, and a getaway plan.
Mm-hmm.
I got my SKS, I'm ready to go. I got, Mr. Celente, we cannot transfer that money to your bank account because Wall Street is closed, and guess what?
What?
You can't get your money out because your certificates of deposit over there, they don't work anymore. They're traded on Wall Street. Wall Street's closed. You can't get your money. So your CDs are dead.
Meaning you can never get them back, or just until Wall Street
Wall
opens?
Street opens up.
So they kind of foresaw the same thing you did. They closed down.
They
so that no
closed
one
down
could-
immediately.
Yeah.
When Wall Street closed down, you couldn't get your money out.
Right.
So,
Dangerous.
and then I went into town and I bought a load of water, dried fruits,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a close combat practitioner for many years, and packed up one suitcase. Still, it was summer, it was fall
Mm-hmm.
coming on, but if I'm going to get out of here, and I said, silk underwear, I don't know what I'm going to have to do, if I'm going to have to go through the woods to get into Canada, I don't know how I'm going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I also pulled out maps in those days and took back roads out of here. We're only 4 hours away, 4.5 hours away from Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I'm not going to take the New York State Thruway. That thing's going to be closed down, so I'm going
Right.
to take back roads. So I bought a lot, jerry jugs filled with gasoline,
Mm-hmm.
loaded up my car, oil, and then my girlfriend, Marie-Pierre, comes over. They wouldn't give her more money at a key bank when she tried getting it out.
Same thing.
She had $30,000 in it. And Marie-Pierre, being her and being French, she got her money. She put on a scene.
Yeah. Oh boy, they don't like that.
They don't like that. Now, I've had that experience too. I've written about it. Me trying to get money out, whether HSBC, Key Bank, and getting a song and a dance after I call them 2 days ahead of time, telling them I'm coming in, what kind of bill denominations I wanted, and them not giving it to me. And then putting up a lot of crap and me trying to get it out.
Yeah.
So, guns, gold, and a getaway plan. Because I figure if I go to Canada, from there I could go anywhere.
Right. You can actually get out of the country out there.
Right.
Right. Well, that's something I've been thinking about a lot. Like, my wife and I kind of joke about, like, that we're preppers, even though we're really not, because we haven't been able to just really prepare ourselves that well. But we've been stocking food, and we stack metal, and we've been attempting to prepare for whatever's coming. But the biggest concern I have is that without a community, without cooperative efforts from people, it's going to be really hard to survive, even if you are well stocked up. And
Yep.
a focus of my work is this whole political theory called agorism, which is almost a different type of anarchy. It's like applied anarchy. I like to think of it as a politically, what do you call it? Civil disobedience. When you disobey the laws because you don't think they're just, it's economic civil disobedience. It's operating a business without a license or selling lemonade without a license. It's black market activities that aren't harmful to others. And a lot of people are advocating this philosophy as a way to undermine the system that we have, the criminals that run our world. And what my question is do you think it's possible for us, by basically taking our business elsewhere and trying to relocalize and rebuild our own local production, to undermine the system enough for them to have to react to that movement? Do you think that it's possible to mobilize people and create a trend like that, a fad where people are shifting away from buying from Walmart again and trying to get it back to the old model of local community economies?
To an extent it can happen, and I'll give you an example why. See all these malls closing down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What happened when the malls opened up?
All the mom and pop shops closed. Let's see, so now the malls are gone.
So those communities that died,
Mm-hmm.
here you are in Colonial Kingston.
Mm-hmm.
The mall over here, first J.C. Penney's left.
Mm-hmm.
Then Macy's left. Now it's almost like a ghost mall when you go in there.
That's how most of them are.
And by the way, I wrote about this in Trends 2000 20 years ago.
About the...
The pall on the malls, I call it.
Aha.
They
Yeah.
were overbuilding. This is before, again, this is before online shopping.
Right.
It was just overbuilt, oversaturated. It had to come down.
Yeah.
And so now going back to buying local, I believe that the future of this country and any country that has the human and natural resources is self-sustainability. So it's not only buying local, it's buying national. Take a look at the election with Trump. His first 100 days, his rating is the lowest in polling history. But, you know where his highest rating is? 73% of the people approve of his keeping jobs in the United States. A self-sustaining economy. So it takes what you're saying and it nationalizes it. Because what people have become subservient because they become slaves in slave land again. So when you give them their economic freedom, they rise up a little higher. But right now you don't have that.
Right.
Because where are you going to get a job?
Or a loan or any help.
Right. So, yes, I agree with you. And it starts from the bottom up. And that to me is a very wise way to move in what you're advocating and suggesting.
Yeah, because I feel like not only do we need to, like, where we shop, but what we do with our time, how we use our lives, what careers we choose. I feel like we've been tricked into choosing careers that really produce nothing. And a lot of us work in industries where all we're doing is middling and shuffling things around, and hardly anybody makes anything anymore. All the factories are closed. A lot of the old textile sorts of businesses are gone. And I feel like an answer to the problem would be to bring those back and to start making things again.
And
production.
And that's what I'm saying to you. That's why Trump's rating.
Yeah, people agree with that.
Yeah.
That's a popular.
You know, I was just up in Northampton, and I was there last time. I was there about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. Northampton's where Smith College is. It's right in Amherst. You know, it's for rent signs everywhere. Beggars on the street. I mean, more than I'm talking about groups of beggars. This is Northampton. So you're talking about these industrial towns. Go to Torrington, Connecticut. The Torrington Ball Bearing Factory used to be there. Phew, they closed up. Poof. It's Connecticut. Hartford. You go to all these places. Phew, they're going down. You go across the country. You travel, you see what I'm talking about.
I have. I've been seeing it.
You see it everywhere you go.
The empty infrastructure that's basically going to waste.
So the only solution, as I see it, is a self-sustaining economy. And you nailed it by starting the ground up.
Yeah. So let me ask you one more question. I love your sentiment on being a political atheist. And I'm curious how you would compare and contrast that philosophy or that perspective with the idea of voluntarism, which is another word for anarchy. I don't typically use that word because a lot of people have different associations with it, but voluntarism is basically the belief that no one has the right to rule anyone else, and that no institutions, government or not, have the authority or the right to use force on people aggressively. In other words, if you don't commit a crime, if you don't harm someone or steal something, you don't get to have, the government doesn't get to come after you with soldiers or guys with guns, right? And that basically means they can't collect taxes by force. They can't make you pay your parking tickets by force. These are sort of the underlying ideas behind the voluntarist movement. And so I'm wondering, like, how you would compare your stance on what you think we need as far as social or infrastructure for policy making, administration, jobs government does. As a political atheist, would you advocate any form of permanent standing government that has the right to make laws that other people are forced to obey, or how do you figure that?
I believe in laws. You know, for example, I mentioned about the airline industry. The airline industry was regulated. Jimmy Carter deregulated it, and another lowlife little piece of crap of a boy, Alfred Kahn. Yeah, it should have been Kahn, C-O-N. Another arrogant, I remember it, everybody knew it would be a disaster. It was tightly regulated. So the airlines operated on service to beat the other guy.
Yeah.
There were 150 airlines when I was Now we're the four that run the whole damn show.
And they all suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember back when they used to be better. Back when they served you food and...
Yeah, AT&T. I believe it's a public service. You're not there to rip us off.
Right.
So I believe in those kind of things. So I don't consider myself, again, a political atheist. I don't put myself in a category of being a libertarian or anything.
Right.
I say, I'm glad you have stop signs and red lights. That's okay with me. So I think you need some kind of regulation. And as I say, people say, look how screwed up the government is. I say, hey, have you looked in your own family lately? How are things going?
Yeah.
So let's just keep taking that and bringing it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I believe in morality.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe what's good for society. I don't believe in federal government control. I am a believer in states' rights.
Mm-hmm.
One of my dear friends, may his soul rest in peace. Oh, do I miss him? Great man. Thomas Naylor. He's a professor emeritus at Duke University. He started the Second Vermont Republic. It was a breakaway thing, the secessionist movement. And he died in 2012. When he died, the whole thing went down. He was, but I believe in that kind of. And to me, it's how could any thinking adult call themselves a member of a party? What the hell's the matter with you?
Yeah.
How can you, you believe in some clowns? Oh, which one do you like better? Diane Not So Feinstein? Or Eddie Munster now has changed his name to Paul Ryan? Which one of these clowns? Lindsay, did you come out of the closet yet, Graham? Or John and St. McCain? You know, before Trump was saying he wasn't a war hero, I was saying it. Long before Trump. You're not a war hero dropping bombs on innocent people. This is a guy that would have gone washed out, man, McCain, if his old man and his grandpappy were in admirals.
So
this guy crashed his planes. This guy destroyed one of them, an aircraft carrier. He's a damn loser with a bad attitude, like most of these people. You believe in these jerks? You know, you said something before about government making laws that we have to abide by. It took me 69 years to write this one sentence. I hope it doesn't offend anyone, but you could take it out if you want. I was not put on this earth to take orders from assholes. Just to make it clear.
Yeah. I totally stand behind that. And that's part of like what our movement is about, the whole liberty movement. Call it anarchy, call it voluntarism.
It's not anarchy. It's subserviency to take orders from these shitheads.
Right. Is it they have the right to tell us what to do?
Exactly. Who anointed them?
Good question. That's what I want to know. And I was in D.C. recently, and I went around asking people in the streets, do you think they have the authority to do what they're doing? Do you think that what they're doing is legal? And where did they get the authority to bomb people, to pass all these draconian laws and spy on all of us? Is it legal? And who gave them the authority? And nobody knows. People are like, I don't know what to think about that.
And legal is a bullshit word.
Yeah.
You make up a law so it benefits who you want and what you want.
Right.
How about morality?
Right.
Can we begin and end with that? You know, take your law and shove it.
Okay, well, it sounds like, regardless of how we term ourselves, it sounds like we're on the same page with this. It's like, we don't have to do what these assholes tell us. Like, that's not our responsibility to bow to them. And these are, I feel like, people...
look at the names. Little Chucky Schumer, one little jerk after another, or jerk off to be more proper.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we should be proper. We should be English. Let's call them wankers.
These wankers.
Wankers is better than jerk-offs.
Right. Still, though, I mean, that's who we're being run by.
That's who we are. Yeah, look at the names.
Yeah.
McConnell, Mitch McConnell. Look at these guys.
Yeah.
Look at them.
Yeah.
Remember the guy in the CIA, Clapper? Do you see these guys? Holy Christ.
I always laugh about your statement about these guys that can't fight their way out of a paper bag or trying to send our children to go die in war.
Yeah,
It's like,
Pence. See, Pence has his daughters over there in North Korea looking through the... What are you doing over there? Who paid for bringing them over here?
Yeah.
Hey, Pensy boy. Oh, that's another one that gets me, man. As holier than thou. I'm an evangelical. Pro-life. But let's drop bombs and kill a couple of million people. That's all right, man.
God approves.
Yeah. Yeah, God, pro-life, pro-murder, man.
Well, there's so many different problems with it all, and there's so much that's going on that's just insane. You can't even keep up with it. And partly why I love following trends research is because it gives me a perspective on what to pay attention to, and like, I don't really like to follow hardcore political. Like, I couldn't read all the newspapers you read because that language just makes my head hurt. But I'm glad that you do it so I can stay on top of what's going on, because I need to know. I feel like it's important to stay informed as to what these guys are doing. But at the same time, I want to be doing stuff outside of their circle and start creating competition for their system. Create a system that more like, it's almost like a Red Rover game. We want more people to leave their markets, their money systems.
You got it.
And start coming over and hanging out in the local communities and doing real stuff.
You got it. It does not take a majority to prevail, rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. Samuel Adams.
Beautiful quote. Beautiful quote.
And one man of courage makes a majority. Andrew Jackson. And what you have here in this country is a bunch of courageous little boys. Again, we could go down the whole list over there.
Yeah.
Look at them. Look at them.
Yeah. Well,
men and women, let's gotta be equal here.
Equal rights here.
And by the way, I'm offended with the mother of all bombs. How about the father of all bombs?
Did they assume the gender of that?
Oh, I'm very upset. How dare they?
Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Please tell us where people can find out all your work and where they can look into your stuff.
Well, trendsresearch.com, besides the Trends Journal, which is a 60-page full-color magazine, and no ads. We do Trends in the News broadcast each weekday night. And we have a Trends Monthly, Trend Alerts each week. And of course, we also launched OccupyPeace.us. And when you ask about how to restore health and vitality to the nation, you know, you got all these people, every week there's a march,
Yeah,
march.
let's
Let's march. How about marching? Let's go out and march. Why don't we march? Let's march. You know, I'm all in favor of masturbation, but don't do it in public, you know? What are you getting from this? What's your backup plan?
Yeah. It's a good question.
So Occupy Peace is the only movement that we know of that has a plan. Plan number one, honor the founding fathers. Here you are in colonial Kingston, New York. Right over there, the courthouse. This was the first capital of New York State. The Constitution that was written for New York State was written there. Most of America's Constitution came from that Constitution that was written here.
Wow.
These four corners over here, I own 3 of those buildings. You saw them.
I did, yeah. Beautiful.
1750, 1776,
Incredible
1763, and 1691. It's the only place in America where there's a pre-Revolutionary War stone building on each corner. Down the block is the Senate House. That's the oldest building in America open to the public. I'm mentioning this because the seeds of democracy was sown here, and that's why I bought these buildings. This is my country. And my blood is Italian, my heart's American. I couldn't be me if I was born in Alta Villa Alpina. I only could be me because I was born in the Bronx.
Right.
And this country gave me all I needed to do what I wanted to do. I was locked into a system. So Occupy Peace is to honor the founding fathers. Again, you know, Obama has to be the most arrogant president I've ever seen in my life. And I saw when I was a kid, when we moved from the Bronx to Yonkers, I saw Dwight D. Eisenhower. I saw Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy campaign in Larkin Plaza in Getty Square in Yonkers. As a matter of fact, when Kennedy's car was pulling away, I reached over and grabbed his hand.
Wow.
And, you know, I went to Catholic school. It was a big deal that a Catholic was running for president, you know, in those days.
Yeah.
So, you know, the whole story. But I couldn't believe it. Matter of fact, I have a photo over there, I'll show it to you later, of me and John Connolly. That's the guy that took the bullet in the back. He was the governor of Texas.
Right.
In front of the book depository. Me, him, and his wife, Nellie, in their first time back since the assassination.
You took the picture at the depository?
Yeah, it's right there.
Wow.
can show it to you later.
Okay.
Anyway, as we're going, just to diverge a little bit, going back to Occupy Peace and honoring the Founding Fathers and no president that I've respected. When we're walking back into the Anatole Hotel, I was with Conlon for about 5 hours, and he said to me, I read your book, Trend Tracking. He said, it's a great book. He said, your heart's in the right place. He said, we don't have a clue what's going on. And neither do the American people. Because if they did, there'd be a revolution in this country. Oh, by the way, he wasn't only governor of Texas, a Democrat. He was also the Treasury Secretary under Richard Nixon.
Wow.
This is when they took America off the gold standard.
Right.
That was Conlon.
Wow.
So going back to Occupy Peace and honoring the Founding Fathers, and I talk about the arrogance of Obama, and murdering thousands of people with drones, tens of thousands of people in Libya, Syria, for 500,000 dead. George W. Bush, a little boy of nothing. Slick Willie Clinton. Trump went to a military school right south of here, Cornwall. Just to put this into perspective, we're the same age. I ran away from kindergarten in the Bronx and crossed the Boston Post Road. I was an out-of-control kid. They would have had me whacked out on, riddling.
Yeah, they'd have drugged you up these days.
And I barely got out of high school. But anyway, there were 3 boys, big family, 7 of us. And when we were out of line, my parents, may rest in peace, we said, I had enough of your crap, you're going to military school. That was the worst punishment.
Threat.
Yeah. Now take it, here you are, think about it, as a teenage boy. If you're not going into transgender bathrooms and you like girls and cars, that's all you think about. Trump was so out of his mind, so narcissistic, that they shipped him off to military school. And you see him dressed up in his military drag, Make that bed, put that, and you're eating this crappy food while I'm eating my mother's
Yeah.
And running out a little bit. First car was an MG Midget. Yeah, I had anyway, I had a Ford Torino 396 stick shift, no power steering. I mean, I want to be free.
Right.
Trump is so out of his mind, they sent him to military school. And I know guys from here that went to school with him.
Oh, really?
And they couldn't stand him. So what I'm saying is, going back to Occupy Peace, George Washington, a real commander-in-chief that fought for this country's freedom, his farewell address, no foreign entanglements.
Stay out of the other country's business.
Adams, Jefferson, Madison, all the way up to Dwight D. Eisenhower, of course you had sellouts in between.
Right.
Like Woodrow made Ron Hell
Wilson,
who gave us the Federal Reserve and brought our boys to a war that never should have happened, like all the rest.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eisenhower's farewell address. 5-star general, supreme commander of the Allied forces, again a real man, not these little boys that play commander-in-chief. No foreign entanglements. The military-industrial complex is robbing the nation of the genius of the scientists, sweat of the laborers, and the future of the children. Smedley Butler, the most decorated Marine of the time, was a rabbi. So Occupy Peace, number 1, is to bring home all the troops. Number 2, use those troops to secure our borders. Put them to work rebuilding our rotted infrastructure. We spent more money rebuilding Afghanistan,
which we destroyed,
when adjusted for inflation than the Marshall Plan after World War II.
We spent more money on Afghanistan than on the Marshall Plan?
Yes, when adjusted for inflation, that's right.
Wow.
Number 3 is to force Congress to vote to go to war. Again, everybody marching for their issues, but nobody consolidating over a plan.
Yeah.
And we have it. Congress has not voted to go to war since World War II.
Wow. all the other wars have been illegal.
Yeah, El Presidente of los Estados Unidos. Who never send their boys and girls. Hey, send little Jared Kushner with his 28-inch waist to go fight. And your boy Eric, who shoots his mouth off too, and how tough his daddy is. Send him over there, Donald, or shut your mouth. Hey, lead the charge, man.
That's right.
You're going to call him out? Take him out.
Yeah.
Or else you're not a man. You're a little coward.
Well, it speaks for itself.
So, force Congress to vote to go to war, and finally, put a referendum on each state ballot where we, the people, will tell our congressmen and congresswomen, these arrogant little people that have never had a job in their life, most of them, and have been sucking off the public tit, we'll tell you how to vote. Because we're the ones that pay for the war with our money and our lives.
Yep.
So that's what OccupyPeace.us. .us, it's only about us. So that's what Occupy Peace is, and if people don't support it, that's fine. I held a rally here. I had Ralph Nader, Cindy Sheehan, the brave woman who camped out in front of George Bush's ranch for months after his son was killed in Iraq. Dr. Robert Thurman, a Buddhist, Uma Thurman's father. I had him here, Gary Null from New York City. So I put my money where my mouth is. And so they're taking us to war. When all else fails, they take you to war. It goes back to where's the economy? The whole thing's a scheme. It's one big Ponzi scheme. And the Ponzi's called the Federal Reserve. That's the one I forgot, Eric. That backtrack Trump.
Oh, his backtrack.
On Easter week. You know, Janet Yellen's not so bad. Hey, he was yelling about how rotten she was when he was candidate, Trump. Oh, and guess what, Eric? Those low interest rates, they're not so bad.
On second thought, now that I'm president, I think it's all okay. All the stuff.
So you backtrack Barack, backtrack Trump.
Yeah.
You're all crap to me.
Yeah.
They don't represent me.
I feel the same way. And so I don't have any problem breaking their laws. Obviously, I have a compass for morals. I believe that it's wrong to wrong other people for real. But a law that has no victim, or a crime that has no victim, isn't really a crime. And if the only victim is their sense of entitlement to rule over us, then I'm welcoming that change. So, well, it feels like there's a lot of work that has to be done, and I'm really appreciative of the work you've been doing for a long time now. I've been helping people, keeping people informed, and inspiring people to get out there and do stuff. So thank you for that, and thank you for your time today. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for coming up. And you can see when you say, you know, I read all this ugly stuff and talk about it, but I also create beauty around it.
Absolutely. This is an amazing place. I'm going to do some footage.
I take care of all the plants inside and out.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what's missing, is beauty. Grace, dignity, and beauty. Think about the hottest, happiest music this nation's ever known. It was swing time during the Great Depression. But there was no war.
Right.
When you have war, you have fear. You don't create out of a state of fear.
Right. That's true.
So that's what I try to do. I would love to see, as much as you want to see what you like, I would love to see a renaissance, an appreciation of the past, the beauty, elegance, grace, dignity. Again, when you look at the pictures on the wall, these Italian immigrants, my parents' wedding, 1934, you know, they worked in fish stores, vegetable stores. They dressed elegantly. It was a pride and dignity.
Yeah.
And we talked about airlines before. Look what it's become. You know, they say that pigs can't fly. You've been to the airport lately?
Some of them are flying.
Back in the planes, man. So anyway, that's why I try to art and beauty.
Art and beauty and plants and culture, those are things that's what we the people can do. We can't stop them from going to war alone, but we can create a garden, we can create something beautiful.
And the more beauty you create for yourself and the higher levels you rise physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I'm not talking about religiously. I don't, you know, if you believe that, you know, Mary was a virgin, you know, Buddha came from a lotus blossom and Moses gave out 10 commandments. That's great, you know. But I'm talking spiritually in a much broader sense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying what you should or shouldn't believe. It's just I don't believe. I believe in what I want to believe and how I believe in it, and it goes back to morality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very simple. Do unto others as you would have them do unto
Right.
you.
That's right. That's the bottom. That's the only real law there needs to be.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, glad to get your perspective on all this stuff, and definitely look forward to continuing to follow your work. And I hope everyone out there who hasn't already checked into Trin's research will do so, because it's super valuable information. So thank you again, Mr. Salente. It's
Thank
been
you.
an honor. All righty.